Thank you for joining our chunky blanket throw recording of the steps on how to start and end your chunky blanket. So very first thing that you're going to do is identify your skein of yarn. There's going to be a tail that is going to be found in the center of your yarn. You're going to start off with your tail, and you are going to position your yarn skein, the ball, to your right. You're also going to be working from left to right. If you are left-handed, you're going to work from right to left. Very first thing, I position my skein of yarn to my far right. And right now you could see that my tail is on my left and my right is my working yarn. So from here, what we're going to do is start off with the very first steps to make a slip knot. I like to use my 4 fingers as a form of measurement. So for example, we're going to start off with a ribbon, creating a ribbon formation. So I'm just going to position my yarn, my tail, my working yarn to my left. From here, what you're going to do is then create a pretzel formation. You want to make sure that you do not leave too much of a gap between your first knot. So what I always like to use is my 4 fingers, I slip it through to make sure that that is ample length. For the sake of the next step, I am going to make it a little larger so that it is visible in the camera. But you are going to keep it at the smaller length. So for example, I'm going to pick up the top part of my ribbon, face it down so that I create a pretzel. As you can see, it looks like a pretzel formation. Again, I'm going to repeat myself, and then I started off as a ribbon, right? Tail into ribbon, top piece of the ribbon, down into a pretzel. From here, I'm going to go ahead and place my thumb on the left tail and my right index finger on the right. I'm going to focus in on this piece of thread right here. And the goal is that we're going to pull it through to make a knot. So for example, here's my left side. I'm going to start to pull it until it creates a knot formation. You'll be able to see if you are correct, if you could slip in your 4 fingers. And that's really the main goal of the length. As far as the tail, I like to keep it within no more than an inch. And then from here, we are going to go into the actual making the links. The very first row is really focused on the width of your blanket. I like to keep it within 18 to 22, but of course, if you'd like to make the width of your blanket a little larger, you may go up to the desired number. Just make sure that, remember, this is the width, and we're going to be creating the length as we build our rows. So for example, now that we have our slip knot, here's our working yarn. We're going to position our loop right over the yarn so that it looks like a 0 with a line underneath. From here, we're going to pick up the center of the yarn, right? This little length, right? And we're going to pick it up and position it towards the right to make our first link. As you can see, I did not go more than 4 fingers, and I positioned to the right. This is my first. Then again, from the middle, right? 0 line underneath to the right, 0 line underneath to the right. And we're going to continue to go across until we hit the desired number. Again, I am sticking to number 18. You could go as far up as 25 if you wish, but I'm just going to continue to move along to create the first row. Over time, your eye is going to get used to the width of each loop. And you're just going to continue to move along across. Once you reach your 18th number, right? So remember, these are the links. These center. You're going to pick up your skein of yarn like a typewriter. We're going to position it towards the left. And then we're going to continue on with now introducing the second row. Now that we position the skein of yarn towards the left, we are now going to go from right to left. starting off with our second row. So with our second row, we're going to focus in on positioning our working loop instead of going to the right, like we were just creating our links. We're going to position it vertically, so it's away from us. All right, I'm going to tuck in this yarn behind it and then focus in on the top piece of each opening of that link to create what I like to call a bunny ear. So for example, this is my right side of my bunny ear. Here's my next opening on my link, right? I'm going to place my finger through the yarn. It meets, and you kind of pull it through. To make your left side of your bunny ear. The next one, next opening, place your finger through, the yarn meets the finger, place it through to make a bunny ear. The next one, place through to make a bunny ear. Place through, make a bunny ear. You're going to continue to go across. The goal is that all your bunny ears are consistent in length. It is very common that sometimes you may start off a little tighter on your knits, and then you might loosen up. If you find any mistakes, you could always reverse as well. So here I'm making it across the board to the left side, down to the very last link. Now that I made it to the left, like a typewriter, we're going to pick up our skein of yarn, position it to our right, and we are ready to introduce our third row. For the third row, we're going to continue on with creating loops within the bunny ear. So for example, here's where I landed on the left side. I'm going to place my finger through, it meets. Now we're going to create another bunny ear. Once we have made it to our third row, we're basically going to go on autopilot. And what that means is we're just going to create the same steps over and over as we continue to move across our blanket. So I'm just moving in. No big step here, just going across the board, making bunny ears, within bunny ears. I like to use these little terms to help you see the steps visually. So please don't make fun of me with my terms between a pretzel and a bunny ear. I've now made it towards my right. I'm going to pick up my skein of yarn and position it towards the left. And we're going to now work towards our left side. Starting off at the very end, that bunny ear creates a new bunny ear. To give you a length of time, the first 2 rows should take no longer than 10 minutes. Every skein of yarn should take you about 20 minutes to work through. If you have 3 skeins of yarn, that would put you just roughly about a good hour and a half, 45. If you're working with 5 skeins of yarn, you are looking at roughly 2 hours and a half. Take your time. I made it to my left. I'm going to go ahead and position my skein of yarn to my right. Same process. Going to place the yarn through, create a bunny ear, and work my way across. As you start to near your 4th row, you're going to start to notice that your blanket is coming together. You can start to see a cable moving along. The very first beginning few steps may be a little challenging, but once you get through to your 2nd and 3rd row, the steps do not change. So I'm just moving along. As you can see, I might be pressing my yarn down just slightly because sometimes the loops curl up, and I feel like if I press them down, it's like you're ironing them. Okay. Okay. Let's say you are now at the step where you are running out of your yarn and you're ready to connect a new skein of yarn. So here I'm going to introduce a new yarn. If you're using multiple colors, we've noticed that when you do connect and let's say you ran out of yarn midway, it really truly blends in really well. But if you like to end and introduce your skein of yarn at the end, you may just need to reverse and cut and start and tie and then continue on. So for example, here I am. I'm connecting the new color. It's a very simple set. You're creating a square knot. So for example, you're going to twist. You're going to make an X formation as close to the ends as possible of the tail. Twist under, above, into a knot. Right. Then from here, we're going to continue on with the process of just continuing creating bunny ears. So as you can see, here's my new color I'm going to introduce, and I just whipped, ran it through. The little knot is just hidden in within the yarn, and I'm just going to continue to go across. Same steps, all bunny ears, no more than 4 fingers. Okay, we are now nearing the end of our chunky blanket throw. So from here, when we do begin to reach the end, I like to always allot the amount of yarn that I have left over. So for example, I have a small piece of my yarn ball that I had left, and then I like to go across twice to make sure that we're reserving the needed amount. So for example, here I am going once and then twice. If you started off lengthwise between 18 to 22 lengths, that should be sufficient. If you went above 22, you may need to add a third row reservation so that you could get across. So for example, from here, to close up the link, it's going to be just slightly very different. So for example, we're going to start off, if you landed on your right side, you could close it up from your right, or if you landed on your left, the same way. So for example, here, I'm going to start off with my 2 bunny ears on the left side. And instead of us going ringing through like a bunny ear, what we're going to do is have them face each other, kind of like they're saying like high five. You grab your skein of yarn, ring it through to land with a bunny ear. From here, a bunny ear ends. It meets the next bunny ear that was to the right of it. You grab here's my skein of yarn. You run it through to create bunny ear. From bunny ear to another bunny ear, you ring it through, create another bunny ear to another bunny ear, ring it through to create another bunny ear. So your bunny ear is always meeting the one to the left, right? I mean, to the right, they match, they say high five. Here's my working yarn. I ring it through to land in a knot. And we're going to continue to go across the board. Until we make it to the very end. As you're ending your blanket, you're going to notice that the ending looks very similar to our beginning. All right, so I have now reached the end. I looped my very last one. So what I do is I then, with my tail, I'll go in and I'll just tie a knot. If you have extra yarn left over, you could just cut it, tuck it in. The tail, I just kind of hide it within as if any time in the future, I might want to add yarn, you can. You could always just unravel and then connect with a square knot and continue through. If you are curious about what to do with our very first tail, you would just tuck it in on the edge. And that is all. Thank you for watching.